Hi everyone and welcome back to the Crafty Yellow Camper, and today I've got a technique, a messy inky technique for you using your stamping block. Okay, so this is the card we're going to make. It's really quick and simple, but it is a bit messy. So I'm going to cover my desk with a piece of kitchen paper. Okay, and then what I've got is half a sheet, so this is half an A4 sheet cut widthways of thick basic white. So that's cut at 14.8 across the width of an A4. So if you aren't in the UK, you could use half of your letter size. Okay, now I prefer to fold mine so I know they're straight on the edges, but you can score it at 10.5. Okay, and then I've got another piece, but this is just basic white. So our base is basic white thick, and this is basic white. And we are going to use this to stamp on. Okay, so this is just a normal acrylic block. You can do this technique with whatever size you want, but I want to take up most of the middle of the piece with border around the outside. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring in, now there's two ways you can do this. You can do this with Stampin' Right markers, which sadly I've heard are being discontinued. So if you love your Stampin' Right markers and you're missing any that you desperately want, then I'd suggest you get them now. What this technique doesn't work with are the blends, because they are alcohol based, so that they won't blend, so not in the way that we want the water-based pens to blend. So these don't work. Don't use these on your blocks. What you actually want to use are these, the Stampin' Right markers. Okay, so these are the 2025-27 in colour. So we've got Cloud Cover, Secret Sea, that one doesn't want to come out, Darling Duckling, and Timid Tiger, and Strawberry Slush. So you can do this with an ink pad, but I'm going to show you how to do this to get 3 colours. So on this one, this is just 2 colours using an ink pad. So what I've done on this is this is my peach pie, because I don't have Timid Tiger in an ink pad, but I do have it in a pen. So you literally obviously open it and then lay down some colour on your block, and then you'll get your next one. So I used Berry Burst on this one, and lay that down on the other side, and that's how you get your colour. I'm going to do this with the pens this time, so still the same principle. So I have got my Timid Tiger, and I'm going to use the brush tip end. So that's this end here, and this is the fine tip end. And for those of you that are new to Stampin' Up, they always tell you what colours they are in all the languages on the back. Okay, so we want the brush tip end, and all I'm going to do is literally scribble on my marker. So these are water-based markers, and as I said, I have read that these are going to be discontinued. So the blends, as far as I'm aware, are staying. It's just the Stampin' Right markers, which is a shame, because they're really good for colouring on stamps. If you want to colour an image in more than one colour and stamp it in one go, they're brilliant for this. And obviously you can't use the blends for that. Right, and then I have got my Strawberry Slush. And I am just going to do exactly the same thing. Scribble that on. And this is a really old technique. This is not anything new, but it's something I haven't done for a while. And I just thought it would be nice. Try and get a reasonably straight edge across there. It's not essential, but it does make life a little bit easier. And then I'm going to come in the middle with some Darling Duckling. Okay, so just going to fill in that middle section there. I don't know yet whether we're going to get Stampin' Right markers in the new in colours that will come in the May catalogue, or whether they're being discontinued as of this year's annual catalogue. as I said, I think it'll be a shame because they're great for colouring, but there must be a reason they've decided to discontinue. Right, so hopefully you can see there, if I put that back down on the white, we've got our Strawberry Slush, our Darling Duckling, and our Timid Tiger. Then I'm going to bring in a spritzer bottle. So these are the spritzer bottles. I think they come in packs of 3. I've had these for quite a long time. Again, hopefully all these things I'm using will still carry over and you'll still be able to order them. I am not going to on stage. It's too expensive for me. I'm sure some of the ladies there will find out. Now, you can see I've got quite a lot of water on there. So what you can do, if that's a little bit too much water for you, because we don't want this to make a runny, horrible mess, you can just take your kitchen paper and just very gently soak up some of that colour. Okay, and now I'm going to bring in my piece of basic white on that layer. Now again, it helps if you try and get this fairly straight, but you do only really get one chance. And you can see that was a little bit drippy. Okay, give it a minute for the ink to soak in the paper and then lift your block up and you can see most of that ink has gone. Easy clean up, just run it under a tap or wipe it over with some kitchen roll and that will come off. And there is our printed section. Now it will need to dry before I can stamp on it. So I'm just going to clean up my block. If you're in a hurry and you live in a climate that's quite humid, you can use your heat tool to dry it off, because we're in a little bit of a rush today. Otherwise you'll be sitting there looking at my very grubby desk. Just going to give it a blast over with the heat gun. And it will curl up with the heat gun, but just turn it over and do it on the other side. And if you don't go too far with it, it should flatten it out. I've curled it a little bit more than I wanted. Right, there we go. Okay, so that's now nice and dry. So I'm using the Charming Day stamp set, and in this video I'm using this big image here. So I am going to ink that up. Don't very often use black, but I'm going to ink that up with some Memento Tuxedo Black. You could use any other colour. I quite often use London Fog, which is a grey, but for today I want the black. And then we're going to stamp this over the top of our ink splodge. I'm going to go there with it. Now, this is still a rubber stamp. Rubber stamps are also being phased out. So just be careful that you don't press down too hard so you don't get those shadow marks. So that's that there. And then I'm actually going to leave this one as it is, which is what I've done on this card. But while I was playing around with this technique, I had this one. Now, this is why I said mop up some of your water, because I didn't on this and it dribbled. It was too wet on the block and it dribbled when I turned it over. But I can just cut this down and use this for another card. But you can see that it's easy to use blends to colour it in if you want to colour it in. I'm going to leave this one quite plain and simple like this. So let me just move some things out of the way. I really need a bigger desk. Okay, so I've got my piece of basic white thick. What have I done with it? What have I done with it? I had it here a minute ago, didn't I? Ah, there it is, hiding under the stamps. Okay, so you can just give it a little bit of a bend to flatten it out a little bit. Now, you'll notice on here I've got some trim. And that is... oh, on my desk. That's this. So this is braided trim, and it's quite a nice pale pink. I think it's probably pretty in pink, or it might be oh, the rose one. I can't remember the name of now. I'm Unfortunately, my ink pad's got the French name stuck on the front bit, and now I can't get it out. Could be Flirty Flamingo, but it's a bit pale for that. Oh, come on. I think it might be Petal Pink, looking at it. Okay, so just gonna... Now, we don't need a very big piece of this. There's absolutely no need to tie it around. It's really thick and it would really bulk out the card. So I'm just grabbing my ribbon scissors. Yes, I keep a separate pair for cutting ribbon, and I know they're always sharp. Okay, now what I did find when I made my example card was that this ribbon is, again, is, as I said, very thick. Now, ordinarily, all you would have to do is put some tear and tape or some snail, or no, not snail, can't think what it's called now, tape roller on to stick it down, but because this is quite thick, I'm going to go with some I'm going to put a glue dot in the middle. So I want my ribbon to be about there. Okay, so I have got tear and tape for the back. It's on my desk somewhere. What have I done with it? What have I done with it? I have no idea. Was here a minute? Ah, here it is. Was there a minute ago? Right, so I'm just going to put a piece of tear and tape on the back of my stamped card. I don't know what I've done with my new roll of tear and tape, so this one's quite old. Sometimes has to be persuaded to stay where I put it. This is finger lift tape, so it has got, the tape is a little bit narrower than the edge, which does make it easier to pick it up. Right, so we're then going to stick this over onto the tear and tape, making sure that we get it level on the front, but not pulling it so tight that we bow the card with it. There we go. And I found that it didn't really stay flat because it's just the texture of the ribbon. So what I did was got my trusty Take Your Pick tool, picked up a glue dot off my mini glue dots roll. Did that go there? And then using the Take Your Pick, I just put it underneath the ribbon and press that down like that. And then I used some dimensionals. Obviously, you've got a little bit of a hangover of the tear and tape, and that's absolutely fine. As I've said loads of times before, always use your edges. And I'm just putting a dimensional at each corner. Okay. Do you know, gel nails look really pretty, but they are an absolute nightmare for picking small things up, picking edges off things. Right, 2, 3. I do apologise, I keep ending up off camera. I'm a bit out of practice, I haven't done this for a while. Okay, and then we'll bring in our base. And I like to open up the card base because I find it doesn't bounce about then when I'm trying to put my layers on. And you could put a layer of coloured card in one of your colours behind a stamped image if you wanted to, but I don't want to. I want this just to be a plain, you know, a quick and easy card. And then I've got these Charming Shimmer faceted dots which go with the Charming Day set, and you can see if I open them up, they start off bigger and they get smaller as we go down. So again, I'm just going to bring in my Take Your Pick tool, and I'm going to go for one large in the pink, which I think is probably Berry Burst. I'm going to put that down there, and then we're going to go for 2 of the smaller ones in this right hand corner, and I'll lift this up in a minute and you can see where I spritzed. Sorry, let me just level that up. There we go. You can see where I spritzed, hopefully. And there's just a little bit of the ink as I sprayed the block has gone round the edge. I mean, I personally don't think it matters. I think it adds to it, but if you really don't like that, keep your cardstock out of the way. And then just to finish off, put those gems away, otherwise they'll get brushed onto the floor and then I'll be looking for them and won't know where they are. Okay, and just to finish off, I'm just going to bring my Wink of Stella pen in, and I'm just going to, I can never do this. How do people do this? I never managed to flick it. Other people manage to flick it. I don't know how they do it, but I never managed to. Okay. Well, I was going to flick it all over to, perhaps I've got to do it like that. Messy fingers, but I don't think I have got some on there. I don't think it's going to pick up on the camera, but I can see in the light, so that obviously is the way to go. We've got to flick it using a fingernail just to add a little bit of shimmer, and you could obviously use the Wink of Stella to colour in your rose, but I just wanted that a little bit of subtle shimmer. There we go. So there's our card. Nice, quick, easy one there. Take me too long to do at all. And obviously, if you were batch making cards, this kind of technique is perfect because you can just print a load of the block bits and then stamp whatever you wanted to over the top. So there's our original, and that's the one we've just made. And you can see each time, depending on how much ink you put on, whether you use ink pads or whether you use blocks, how much you blot off, each time you will get a slightly different colour variation on there. So right, hope you like the card, hope you'll give it a try if you haven't seen this technique before, and I'll see you all again soon. Thanks for watching and happy stamping. Bye for now.